Square Enix has been making a lot of really poor decisions over the past couple of years by pushing away the audience they already had and chasing a brand new one. And unfortunately for them, it seems like over the next few years, if they don't turn things around, they're going to go under. And now they're revealing, of course, this plan to reboot the company over the next 3 years. And gamers are wrecking them for it, saying, I don't even think they're going to make it that long. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I did an individual video already on this whole company reboot. Over the next 3 years, they have to shift things around strategy, and that video will be linked down below. But I think that the response is very telling because a lot of gamers don't even think that they're going to make it that long, and I completely agree. They have not been listening to us for years at this point, and it is very hard to trust them and to give them even more opportunities than we already have. And when you look at what they've got lined up, it doesn't look very good. It's just ports. It doesn't seem like they're actually trying to innovate. And the last time they tried to innovate, they failed spectacularly because that was with Forspoken. They dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into that, and it didn't turn out financially sound for them. But every company is struggling to a certain extent right now, unless you're, of course, in the top 1%. But Square Enix used to be one of the pillars in the gaming industry. The reason why so many people ended up looking at JRPGs and what different types of developers in different regions were making is because they were doing something unique and original. They weren't worried about westernized guidelines and standard Western fare. They were trying to make things that felt new and fresh. And while there are still some Japanese developers that do that, we've had to also look at Chinese developers now and South Korean developers because Japan is filled with a lot of businessmen and investors and, of course, studios that want to chase making as much money as possible. They are willing to sacrifice creativity if it means making a few extra dollars, and a lot of those companies now chase those sweet, sweet ESG bucks. They are more worried about fitting into the Western industry than standing out from the crowd, which is, again, what made them popular in the first place. And now they're, of course, emphasizing that they're going for quality over quantity for its games business, but what they're explaining they're going to do sounds like anything but that. It says that they've come up with this new strategy to help it realize these goals. The company has now revealed more details on its Square Enix Reboots and Awakens medium-term plan that will unfold over the next 3 years. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying, are they even going to be alive for 3 years? That seems pretty generous. According to Square Enix, it plans to adopt a multi-platform approach for its games, leading to major titles being released on a consistent basis starting March 2027. So we're not even talking about the end of 2025 or 2026. We're talking about 2027. It says all of its games titles will be placed under the management of the same studio, and this will allow for all of its in-house knowledge to be consolidated, accumulated, and shared, Square Enix added. This new approach has also resulted in several in-development games being canceled as Square Enix decided to focus its resources on funding other projects instead. And you might be thinking to yourself, they're a game development company. They are going to be releasing a lot of new and unique and original games, but that is not the case because first of all, they've canceled a ton of projects, but second of all, they're just focusing on re-releasing games on other platforms. While it is working to keep costs down, it has also adopted a multi-platform release strategy for a number of its games. This includes releasing Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade to Nintendo Switch sometime in the future, so rip your Nintendo Switch because it is definitely going to explode, and releasing the Final Fantasy Pixel Collection to the Switch earlier this year was good for them, and then releasing Bravely Default Flying Fairy to Switch 2 in June 2025, and then even looking past that, all they really have is 3 years of rebooting, release dates to be decided. There's just nothing of substance here. They say that they plan to release major titles on a consistent basis, but they're not giving us any real solid information, and as somebody who is not going to buy these games on something like the Nintendo Switch, who already owns the first release of them, I want to see something new. I want to hear about their plans and how they're going to make content for their audience. It's just not very exciting to hear about ports constantly. Now, I get get that companies want to release their games on as many platforms as possible because it leads to making as much money as possible. But if you've already made a chunk of change off of these initial releases and then you decide, oh, hey, we're just going to put it on other platforms, sure, you might get some people purchasing it twice, but that's not going to be a large portion of your audience. And because this strategy was announced, there are a lot of people who are just pointing and laughing at them. I had put up a video. The responses here have been pretty funny to see. Won't be for the better. Good. This is exactly what they should do. Hey, maybe they will turn things around. That would be cool. I just don't have any trust or faith in Squeenix these days. It doesn't take that long. Fire everyone and close down the North American offices, fire everyone at the ethics department, they're done. Make a classic turn-based RPG Final Fantasy with the quality of a Baldur's Gate 3 or Clair Obscur. That will reboot you pretty well, I think, which I definitely agree with. I've been talking a lot about games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and how fantastically they've been doing, and we had also heard that apparently, according to analysts, they believe that Square Enix is probably kicking itself seeing the success of the realistic turn-based JRPG Clair Obscur Expedition 33. An analyst said after being reticent to do it with the Final Fantasy series, and it never really made a lot of sense to me why they would completely forego turn-based with Final Fantasy. Sure, they still release plenty of turn-based games, and turn-based games are really successful right now, but I just don't think that their audience ever really wanted them to double, triple, and quadruple down on action Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 16. I think action Final Fantasy is good. Do not get me wrong, but I'd still rather have Final Fantasy be turn-based, and I think the majority of gamers would agree with that. Pirate Nation had made a post about this, and the replies here are also, I don't trust Squeenix, I don't see a way that they can turn things around, and I don't think that they're going to be around in that time frame. Call me crazy, but I don't think Square Enix is going to make it another 3 years, and that's being very generous. Most game companies are like this. The last few years, they've been filled with unnecessary remakes and ports. Sadly, the industry is too scared to take risks, so they play it safe. The last risk Squeenix took was with Luminous and Forspoken, and that turned out to be a flop. But again, it's because they completely pushed aside their identity, pushed aside what made them popular in the first place to chase this big global audience, and it turned out to be a complete and utter joke. They already announced Kingdom Hearts 4 and Dragon Quest 12, but we have no idea when those are going to actually release. Oof, this company used to be unstoppable, then they went woke and started wrecking their IPs one by one. The fuckwads need to remember who made them money, not who cries more about DEI, ugly women, and pronouns. I'm just going to wait to see how the next expansion for Final Fantasy XIV turns out. If it's another Dawn Trail, then I think I'm going to be done with them. And yeah, unfortunately, Square Enix used to be a company you could rely on, that you could expect a high quality product from, but they've just strayed so far from the path that made them successful in the first place that even I don't see a way that they could fully turn things around. I think it would take so much time and money. I think they'd have to fire 95% of the people that are working for them, and they really have to start listening to customers, and that's their biggest hurdle because most companies believe what they think is going to sell is what's going to sell, that nothing is going to fail, that they have this almost unflinching confidence, and they'll double, triple, and quadruple down if they think that eventually these brand new modern plans will pay off for them. And so far, they haven't been for Square Enix. So of course, I'll be keeping my eye on this. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.